I'd like to describe a very valuable data repository here in the state of Minnesota. It's the mngeo.state.mn.us, or the MNGeo site. If you do a web search on MNGeo GIS data, this will come up, or if you just note this. And there's lots of GIS data here in this MNGeo site that's useful. It's organized by environment, boundaries, or transportation. You can see if I click on this Find GIS Data. There's also information that Get GIS Helper participate. So it's a useful resource for lots of information. In the environment set, if I click on the environment set, there's a lot of environment data sets that I can download. So for example, I could type in streams, to try and subset. Let's say I'm interested in hydrography, or all a part of the state. So I have impaired streams and stream assessments, DNR hydrography. Now there's a current stream water units that is all the streams within the state of Minnesota. It's a large data set, and I can go ahead and download that. So I'll left click on this, and it'll give me the metadata, the description of it, and give me a sample, lots of information. And there's various formats. Typically, when we're using QGIS, we'll load this geo package, or we can load shape files. You can use geodatabases. They're a bit more complicated. That's an Esri or another software form. So I would download either of these two. And so I'll click on the download here, and you see on this Mac, it automatically downloads it to my folder. So there's other data sets. For example, in the transportation or boundaries data set, I could go grab something. So here's a boundaries data set. And I could download some data for the state. For example, I might want to look at forest boundaries. I don't know. Let's see what it has for forest. State forest statutory boundaries, and I could download the shape files there for this other data set. So I'll go ahead and download the shape files. Now, since they're large data sets and I just have an average internet speed, this will take a while. I'll pause it and come back when they're done downloading. So my data have finished downloading, and I've opened my downloads folder here to look at the names and the structure of what it's downloaded. So this geo package has a couple of nested directories and information in those, and the shape files is a directory with a bunch of files in there. So at least I know what names I'm looking for and where to find them. So I'll go ahead now and add the data to my project. I do that through this icon here for adding data, and I have to navigate then to my downloads folder and to the data set that I'm interested in. And I go to the geo package and open that and add it. And then I have basically, this will take a while to draw, all of the streams for Minnesota. So I've just downloaded these data, and again I can zoom in and take a look at the stream data sets. Now, this doesn't show up very much. I can double left click here and change the color in the symbology. So if I double left click, it opens the layer properties, and there are various bits of information about it. In the symbology, I can click on this simple line and click here on the color and change the color that looks something more like water for my hydrographic data set, and then apply and hit OK, and it adds the color then that I've just selected. If I show this then on top of the Google terrain, you can see, oh yeah, here we have the rivers in the right place, following along back and forth. So I've downloaded these data set. We've gone over how to do these XYZ tiles for Google before. Let's look at our other data set. That's a geo package. Now we want to look at our downloaded shapefile that we downloaded before. And so in the downloads folder, we have the boundary for state forest, and there's various ones here. I want to load the shapefile, the .shp. The shapefile is actually a cluster of files, but you want the .shp that you'll add here, and then add again and close. And now we see the state forest boundaries. So these are the boundaries of all the forests in the state. I'd like to discuss another data website for Minnesota. It's the MNTopo website. So if you do a web search on MNTopo and left click on the results, it'll take you to a website that delivers data for the elevation, LiDAR, and products derived from the most recent statewide LiDAR elevation. And so it gives you the whole state. I'm going to zoom into an area here near the middle of Duluth, and we'll download some example data. Now, the download process here involves drawing out an area. So if I go to download data after I've zoomed with a polygon, and I'll draw an area that I wish to gather data from. It's just a small area. And then identifying the types of data, so I can get high-resolution DEMs or moderate-resolution DEMs, or the LiDAR data that they used for creating those DEMs, or contours or building footprints. I'm going to ask for the 3-meter DEM and the 3-meter hillshade. And I'm going to ask for it as an open source because it's easier to integrate that into QGIS than the Esri geodatabase. And I'll enter my email, in this case, pbolstad@umn.edu, and I'll submit it, wherever you want that to go. And I have to agree to not do anything nefarious. It puts you in the queue, and depending on how much there is in front of you and how large it is, anywhere from a minute to the longest I've had to wait is about a day for these data in a link to be emailed to you. And then if you click on the link, it downloads the data to your computer. So we'll come back when I get that email and finish going through the process. Just received my DNR email saying that the MNGeo LiDAR distribution is ready, and it sent to me actually multiple emails. And if I read this, it shows that I can download the data by left-clicking here on this topo link, and then it automatically starts the download for me. Now, again, this is a fairly large data set. In my slow internet, it may take a minute or two to download. Okay, it's downloaded my data here. It tends to give me these funny file names. In this case, I located it in my downloads folder, unzipped it, and you have this KN1K or IKJ1. And if I look inside, there are some data here that are a cluster of files, again, for my digital elevation model in a raster format. So having located it then, I can go ahead and add it to my data, but I'm going to add a raster data set in this case and go to my downloads file, go up to the downloads, into the directory here, and load this BIL file. You have to figure out what are the formats that they use the first time you use these data, and in this case experimenting, I found that the BIL are the file that I need. That's band interleave file. So I can zoom in and see then I have this elevation data for Duluth. So another source, there are many other out there, but these are the most useful Minnesota-centric sources for data. I'll have other videos going through other specialized sorts of data. For example, the NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, or the U.S. Geological Survey, or NASA have other specialized sites for data that are of interest to some folks. But if you want the most useful, most broadly used data, that MNGeo site and this MNTopo site are the two that you really need to know about.